All right, you're good, Jerry.
All right, now we know the first thing President-elect Joe Biden is going to do when he ascends to the office of the president in late January. We think, if all these lawsuits fail and he is forced to, and Trump's forced to concede, we're going to get Joe Biden, and Joe Biden's going to forgive the debt of all the deadbeat students, all those economics majors from BU who are took out these massive loans. It's cool. You don't have to pay it back. We'll make all the working class folks out there.
He's talking about me. I have a lot of student loans to
the
pay
bill
off.
for you. Also, Biden, while he was getting that foot massage from the media, and you got to watch these press conferences sometime. It's amazing. They are just fawning over the man. They are just so happy. Refuse to condemn Antifa and Black Lives Matter. I mean, real violent political organizations. I remember, I'm old enough to remember when a president was forced to condemn the bad people who supported him, but no more. We get more stories of hypocrisy from our leaders who are demanding you lockdown for Thanksgiving and demanding that we don't celebrate Christmas. But rules are for us, not for them. I have a couple of sports questions. My man Curt Schilling's heading to the Hall of Fame, which should be fun. And it looks like it might be end of the road for Drew Brees. And I'm wondering, is this how it's going to end for TB12? Is this how it's going to end for Tom Brady? We'll get into all that on the Callahan podcast, brought to you by DCU. Why do DCU members love their free checking accounts? It's simple. No monthly maintenance fees, no minimum balance, no strings attached. What's better is with direct deposit to their free checking accounts, DCU members can get paid up to 2 days early. 0 monthly maintenance fees, 0 monthly balance, 0 reasons not to switch. They'll even remove the hassle of switching your direct deposits and automatic payments from your current checking account. Learn more and make the switch today at dcu.org/free checking. Insured by NCUA. Membership required. All right. Cullinane is here. Alex Reimer is here, and he's the perfect guy to be here because I'm sure he's got student debt, and we're all going to have to pick up the tab for Alex as he defaults on his obligations. But I have a question first for you guys. Before Cullinane nods off and takes his morning nap, and before Alex gets a little riled up, a sports question, a dumb one, irrelevant one. But I'm watching Sports Center a few minutes ago, and this story comes on, and it's just routine. James Harden rejected the Houston Rockets offer of contract extension, 2 years and $103 million. They offered him $51.5 million a year, and he rejected it. Is that the going rate now? Guys, I mean, I haven't been paying attention to the woke NBA. I was like most of America. I bailed this year on the nightly tribute to Black Lives Matter and other violent Marxist organizations. I skipped most of the summer's NBA action, but is that the update, Reimer? The guys now make $50 million a year?
You sound happy this morning, Jerry. Good morning.
Just a simple question. We're going to move on. We're not going to talk. I know it's not overnights on whatever CBS radio or whatever you do. But
what do you mean, whatever? You know what that is. You listen to it for years driving into work. Yes, CBS Sports Radio.
Have you done this big James Harden story lately on CBS?
I will next week when I'm in for some of Thanksgiving week. Hell yeah. For a guy like Jay Hard, as we call him in the biz. He's my guy. He's worth it. No, that's the every year it gets more and more, but with these NBA guys, you see it, Jerry. If they have their heart set on going elsewhere, you can offer them all the money in the world, as evidenced by the Rockets. They'll say no. He wants to go to the Nets. Wouldn't that be a fun team? James Harden, Kyrie, Durant.
Yeah, but you can't be like laughably more, more valuable than the next guy, right? Because I think Steph Curry makes somewhere in the 45 range. So what is he trying to pull off? Like $55 million a year, $10 million more a year than Steph Curry?
I mean, statistically, Harden is the best scorer in the league and has been for 3 years. But, yeah, that's an absurd amount of money.
But he's not as good as LeBron, right? What is LeBron making? What would Michael Jordan be making? I mean, honest to God, $50 million a year. What is life like for a guy making $50 million a year? And I wonder, I mean, obviously the ratings were in the toilet. Obviously, Adam Silver has already promised no more of that political stuff, no more BLM written on the court, no more slogans, tributes to to victims of systemic racism on the jerseys, so they know that they went over the top, overboard with the in-your-face political messages, and it
messages
backfired.
like vote on the back of the jerseys was very divisive.
No, but that's, unless you're stupid, that means vote for Biden. That means vote for our guy, not the other guy. But just a quick question, I didn't know it got to that point where guys were rejecting offers of $50 million a year. I think I'm going to have an easy time, sitting out this season, at least for a while, to see how the NBA, to see how things unfold. They just seem so out of touch. These guys, these pompous asses like LeBron. By the way, has LeBron said anything yet about the concentration camps in China, or is he still, looking into it? Steve Kerr, has he spoken out about the concentration camps in China, or is he waiting to form an opinion?
They're all getting ready for the draft tomorrow night. Are you ready? You going to be locked in?
Oh, is it the draft tomorrow night? No, I used to be really into it. I used to do mock drafts and everything. But
no, you did? When did you do NBA mock drafts?
When I was younger, I covered the Celtics.
Oh, okay.
Yes, and it was for
What was your best mock draft?
Glory days. My first road trip as a sports writer was 8 days in LA, because it was 2-3-2, so the Celtics played 2 at home, and then 3 in LA, and it was a wild time. It was a wild time to see, and we stayed in the same hotel as the Celtics, and you'd see Larry Bird walking down the hall, and Larry Bird would pop. There used to be a media lounge in the LA Airport Marriott, and Bird would come in and grab a beer and say hi and walk up, grab a couple beers, and sit there and shoot the crap with everybody. It was a different time. I don't think James Harden does that.
I was going to say, do you think Kyrie Irving does that regularly?
I know, definitely not. Although he might, steal some beer from the press, he doesn't sit and chat with them. How about this? Another quick sports question.
I'm ready. This is good.
I just read up on Drew Brees' injuries. Yeah. And here's the amazing part. As you probably know, 2 broken ribs on one side, 3 on the other, and a punctured lung.
Yes.
Now, that sounds bad, but consider this. The 2 broken ribs he suffered Sunday when he took that vicious hit, clean hit, by the way, and he suffered 2 broken ribs. The 3 on the other side, he suffered last week.
Right.
And didn't even get treatment, and played and started and was ready to go with 3 broken ribs. And you know how he suffered the punctured lung?
He suffered that Sunday in the first half.
Yeah, but do you know how? You think it was that hit? No.
Yeah, I did.
It was, once again, nope, it was the doctor. The doctors were treating him.
God.
And they jabbed his lung just like they did with who was the other
Tyrod
guy?
Taylor.
Who was it?
Tyrod Taylor.
Tyrod Taylor. But there was another one. It was like Trent Brown or somebody. But Tyrod Taylor. They ended his career when they jabbed him in the lung because Justin Herbert took over, correct?
Yes. Exactly. Wally pipped.
I mean, I know these are kind of patronage hires, or these are friends of the owner or whatever. But how many doctors have to jab players in the lung with a needle before they say we have to reevaluate the process of hiring these guys? But
yeah, it looks like Tom Brady was right to steer clear of the team medical staff. It looks like, after all, you don't want to find yourself with a punctured lung.
Although Tom Brady, when he tore his ACL, went to LA and went to this Neil Aratrash or whatever, this Doctor to the Stars, and they screwed that up. He got all kinds of had all kinds of complications and infections. But it feels like, I've said this all along, this is how it's going to end with Brady. He's going to have something, broken ribs or some injury, and you just don't heal up like you used to, even if you're superhuman like Brady. This feels like Breeze. This will be that day, that injury, that moment where you say he never really recovered from that. Even if he comes, sure he'll come back. He's going to try to play, but he'll never quite be the same. That's how it works.
No, I mean, it's crazy that he threw a touchdown pass late in the second quarter Sunday with these broken ribs on both sides of his body. It was pretty unbelievable. But I agree, Jerry. And Breeze has been declining this year anyway. He can't throw the deep ball at all. So I think this was happening anyway with Drew Brees. Now it's Jameis Winston in the Saints.
And they have pretty capable backups in Winston and Taysom Hill. So,
but he doesn't really throw. He doesn't really throw though. Taysom Hill. I don't really know what they.
He looks good. He doesn't look like just some utility guy out there, some hybrid. I think, and they give him a big contract. They might be planning on him as their QB of the future. We'll see. Breeze turns 41 in January, so next year he'll be. 42 in January. He'll be 42. I'm sorry, I like him, even though he took a knee to Black Lives Matter and went on the apology tour.
Right.
I had trouble with that, but
I know
this is it. He's never going to be the same. All right, that's and I want to get to my man Kurt Schilling heading to the Hall of Fame, which is going to be great. But first, I need to know where my tax money is going as I pay my property tax bill, as I pay my excise tax and every other tax. How much student debt are you going to be relieved of by the taxpayers, Reimer? Big one? You got a big number coming?
None, because I have a dad who paid for it all.
Oh,
so.
That's right. So good. So now the shoe's on the other foot. So you pay your taxes. You work hard.
Yes.
Some of those tax dollars, as you're busting your ass, are going to go to some lazy slob down the street at BU who's still in bed right now. He's going to get up at noon and do a couple bong hits and then go to his virtual, no
bong hits during COVID. You don't want the RA coming to your room and busting you, spraying your aerosols everywhere.
But he will be going to his virtual classes and he'll be getting his degree in, gender studies or art history or some worthless degree. Okay. And somehow Democrats think that is an act of fairness and compassion to forgive these deadbeats of their debt and put the onus on people who didn't take student loans or even more, didn't even go to college. So if you're outside right now, I'm looking out the window and you see a guy, driving an Amazon delivery truck or a guy working, in the street for the city or paving or whatever, that guy has to pay the debt for people who went to BU, spent $70,000 a year, and suddenly realized that, they got a little bit of debt to pay off. The first thing this new administration is going to do is say, why don't we just forgive you? You guys are good. Don't worry about that debt you piled up. It's such a terrible message. It's such a terrible lesson. Make an irresponsible decision. Sit there and wait for daddy government to solve the problem for you.
Well, first of all, this bill that Schumer suggested Biden sign as an executive order would cancel the first $50,000 of student loan debt, not all student loan debt. And number two,
only $50,000. Well, Alex, anyone who has more than $50,000 is a freaking fool.
Why? Jerry, that's how much it costs to go per year to most colleges now.
No, it doesn't. You can go to state school for much less.
For what, like 20-something thousand altogether? So then times four, that's 80-something thousand.
Commute to school. You don't have to go.
You go to a commuter school, which, as you know, unfortunately, is not. No, and here's the thing: that Amazon driver probably has student debt himself, which is why he may be driving for Amazon in addition to another job or perhaps another job. I mean, why should I have had to have such an easy life with no student loan debt just because my father is wealthy? I mean, that is
that's America.
Because that's but I had nothing to do with it. I mean,
you're free to choose. You have
Jerry. I got news for you, Jerry. Hold on, real quick. Most people with no student loan debt, coming from somebody with no student loan debt, do not have no student loan debt because they made a responsible choice as an 18-year-old. They have no student loan debt because they have wealthy parents. So your whole premise is wrong.
Are you kidding? There's plenty of people who didn't go to private universities and spend $70,000 a year. There's plenty of people who made the responsible. There's people who joined the military. There's people who went to work. There's people who went to community colleges, went to school at night. There's millions of people who made the right decision. I know this is.
But there's millions of families who are even in a state school.
Hold on.
Because you don't make any sense.
Alex, can you hold on, please?
You make no sense with this.
You hear me?
This is like a parody. Okay. You're a little faint.
Make my point. There's millions of people who didn't make that irresponsible decision. There is just no rational reason they should pick up the check for the people who made the irrational, the idiotic decision to go to these liberal arts schools. And it's one thing if you're a doctor, but if you don't think, I mean, if you're an economics major at BU, you're like dumber than AOC. There's no reason to think you're going to make enough money to justify taking those loans. And what the government's going to do, what this idiot president-elect is going to do is say, you know what? You made a terrible decision, but that's okay. The hardworking taxpayers will correct the error for you. You don't see the illogic in that, the wrong in that?
Yeah, I don't think all student loan debt should be canceled, but I think there should be much more help than there is, because your narrative is totally wrong. Most people, Jerry, who are majoring in economics at BU have parents who can pay them to major in economics at BU.
Matter. I mean, it doesn't matter what your parents are.
But Jerry, Jerry, yeah, this is America, where if you have rich parents, you're born on the 20-yard line in the red zone, and if you don't, you're way back on your own goal line. I mean, that's America, right? And that's why we should fix that and give people help so everybody can be on more of a level playing field.
They don't need help if they make.
They don't need help.
Decision. Plenty.
Alex, Jerry, let's look at what we spend our money on. The Trump tax cuts cost $1.9 trillion. Yes, it did. Jerry, yes, they do, because they rob the government of revenue it otherwise would have taken in. It cost the government $1.9 trillion, canceling all student loan debt, which again, I don't want to do, would cost $1.7 trillion and would free up so many people, not just young people, people in their 30s, people in their 40s, to have so much more disposable income, which would help the economy so much. I mean, that's the argument. This would be an incredible mobilizer.
All right. I tweeted about this and immediately get the usual reaction from a number of people who paid off their college debt, who just paid it off, who maybe a guy said he inherited money from his grandparents, $70,000, and immediately paid off a student loan debt like a couple of months ago. And if he waited, he would have been looking at $50,000 kiss in the mail from the taxpayers. This is so unjust and unfair. And I want to get to my congressperson.
Hold on. He was able to pay off his student loan debt because his grandmother died.
Can Alex hear me?
I'm not going to. He's in a fight.
This might be one of your worst arguments ever. I mean, he was able to pay off. He was able to pay off his student loan debt. All the other tweets I get is, why is Alex he was able to pay off his student loan debt because his grandmother died. I mean, okay, that helps my argument.
Okay, so that guy, if he waited, he didn't take the $70,000 and give it to pay off his student loan debt, would be looking at a $50,000 gift from the taxpayers, even though he has the money to pay it off. There's going to be plenty of kids with rich parents who aren't going to hit up their parents. They're going to hit up the taxpayers. But I'm going to get to Ayanna Pressley, who, as usual, makes the dumbest, most insane argument. And I'm starting to think she's the craziest member of the squad. She's making her move to get noticed. And I think she's crazier than AOC, more radical at least. But immediately you see the insanity of it all, because you have people who made the right decision who are forced to pay the tab for the people who made the wrong decision. When I was young, like you're younger than you, when I was going to school, everyone in my family, my siblings and I, and my friends for that matter, when you got out of high school, you had a choice. You could go to UMass, or you could go to Fitchburg State or Framingham State. These are state schools. They are I don't know anybody who went to BU. I don't know anybody who went to Wesleyan or Tufts. We just didn't do that. It was stupid, because you could go to a state school for much, much less. You didn't have to take on all that debt. Somewhere along the line, people started getting the notion that the more you spent on college, the better it is. So they would overextend themselves and say, I need to get that degree from wherever, from Bentley or Babson or one of these expensive private schools, when you could have gone to a state school down the street for much, much less. Now, granted, that's subsidized by the taxpayers too, but at least it's a logical, rational decision. You had every reason to go to BU because Dad could take care of it. But what if he didn't? If Dad couldn't, would you have taken out hundreds of thousands of dollars in loans?
I would not have gone to BU. I mean, my question. Okay, well, my question, and that's how most people think. I mean, my question to you is, how many kids did you grow up with who had rich parents?
None.
Okay, so that's why you know nobody who went to Wesleyan or these other expensive private schools. These
Alex,
private
we're
schools,
talking
Jerry,
about people. Forget the parents. We're talking about people who went there,
I know,
even though
Jerry,
they couldn't
I'm
afford it.
telling you that most people who go to these expensive private schools have wealthy parents.
Alex, they don't matter here. Do you understand that they're not?
Yes,
asking
they
for,
do, because the student
No, they
loan
don't.
debate, Jerry, because people with a lot of the student loan debt are regular people who went to regular state schools whose parents still couldn't afford to help them. And if you go to a
We're
state
not
school for
talking
4
about
years,
them. We're
if you
talking
go to
about
a state
people-
school for 4 years, that's about $70,000-$80,000 over those 4 years with interest. That's still a lot of debt, and that is where most of this comes from. It's not rich people. It's not kids going to expensive private schools largely. It's not.
Okay, we're talking about them, the people, and there are millions of them who overextended themselves, went to private schools when they shouldn't have. We're talking about these people who are looking to the government because they know that they have this pandering old fool in office soon and will take care of their debt. It's so unfair and insane. And now you have fools like the squad who are, of course, making it about race. And Ayanna Pressley, as usual, came out with her idiotic take, which it was no surprise. But this is the take from my congresswoman. That's it. Student debt cancellation is a racial justice issue. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but many people in the working class, many blue-collar people are minorities, correct? Many are Hispanic or Black or, maybe first, second generation Americans. They would never even think to go to Wesleyan or BU. They, got out of high school and they went to work or they went into the military. Those minority people are now the ones subsidizing the fool that went to Smith College to study gender studies. A part of the tax, the paycheck of the guy working at Home Depot, part of his paycheck is going to pay the debt of that person that went to Smith College and got a degree in gender studies and can't afford to pay off her student loan debt. That's a racial justice issue. I mean, I realize that Ayanna Pressley doesn't put a lot of thought into these things. They're just knee-jerk reactions, pandering to her race-obsessed base. But how is that a racial justice issue? Most of these, I'm going to guess, most of the people who have $200,000 in debt and student loan debt from private colleges are white. More than half are white. They're going to be off the hook, and the people paying the debt, many of them are Black or Hispanic. How is that a racial justice issue?
One of my favorite stats, not because it's sad, but it illustrates what we have. The average net worth of a Black family in Boston is $8. In-state tuition, again, Jerry, UMass Amherst, I just looked it up, is north of $16,000, and that's not even counting room and board. So even if you go to an UMass Amherst and your family has no money, Jerry, you're still taking on tens of thousands of dollars of debt. That's what Ayanna Pressley means.
I know. Again, you're from a rich family. I was not. If you had to pay your bill, you applied for financial aid. That's what you do. If your family's worth $8 and you go to UMass, you get financial aid. I'm sorry.
Do they cover all? Yeah, but they don't cover all of your tuition and room and board typically.
Yeah, but they cover a lot of it, and the rest of it. You know what you work here at? You work in the summer. You work in the winter. You work at Christmas break. You work at school.
That's not going to get it done, Jerry. This is 2020. I mean, these seasonal jobs that you take for a few weeks over Christmas don't cover.
Right. And when you go to school, you know what you do at school? You work. Work study.
Yeah, work study. Right. Absolutely. Right.
That's how it works.
Yeah,
the idea. You are the perfect guy. And I realize lots of people get frustrated with you here, and I do. But you're the perfect guy because it takes an imagination. It takes real creativity to make sense of this plan. And I understand it's the first thing Biden and Harris want to do because they are pandering to their base, which come to them with their palms out and say, what's in it for me? And you have these people who supported them wholeheartedly, who are in debt up to their eyeballs, and they're saying, take the pressure off me. And they don't ever ask, like, who pays that bill? Who puts that bill? It's the taxpayers. Here's a solution we could both agree on. I think we can find common ground as they like to say, because we're not talking about college. We're not talking about kids going to a university, getting a worthwhile degree, going to work, and then taking part of their paycheck and paying their debt. We are talking about a scam. A scam. Big university is a scam. And you know this. You're smart enough to know this. That and they're, by the way, these are schools that are just full of hardcore liberals, if not socialists. I mean, the faculty lounge at Wesleyan is more radical than the squad. These are just America-hating radicals, Antifa-supporting radicals. They can't charge enough. I mean, when BU raises its price, do you know what Northeastern and BC do? They raise their price too, because in a weird upside-down world, a college that charges more is more attractive to these suburban snob families, and they say, wow, that school's only $40,000. That's not good enough. I need to go to a $70,000 school. You know how that works.
Right.
And you know who benefits? You know who gets rich? People like Professor Liz Warren, who is making $700,000 or $500,000 to teach one course at Harvard. That money, I mean, is that the best use of that money? Harvard now has a $38 billion endowment. $38 billion. I got the top 10 endowments right in front of me. University of Texas, $30 billion. Yale, $29 billion. MIT, $16 billion. These are some of the most flush organizations in the world. And you know what we're doing as taxpayers? We're bailing them out. We're keeping the cycle going, the scam going. People are going to go to these schools. Northwestern, $11 billion. University of Michigan, $12 billion. They could afford to forgive the debt, pay the debt of every student that went there, every alum that went there. But that possibility is never raised. And you know why? Because it's all part of one big scam that people like, Biden and Harris and Ayanna and AOC, they get money. They get money from these universities and these professors and these people these alums who went to these places. They keep the gravy train going. That they can't put the onus on the school, because the school is giving them money, donating to them, paying them if they go there and teach like Liz Warren. When do we put the onus on the schools? You know this is a big scam. You know they're giving out worthless degrees. They're selling worthless degrees for $250,000 or $500,000 to kids who are never going to be able to pay that debt. And they know their guy who's heading to the White House and their girl, Kamala, they're going to take care. They're going to scratch their back. Why can't we point out what a scam the whole thing is and how worthless these degrees are?
Well, my journalism degree has been very valuable. What are you talking about?
That's why I don't understand. Like yesterday, so everyone's talking about it, and you're on one side of the loan forgiveness, you're on the other side. It really doesn't matter. People should have been screaming from the rooftops. Why in God's name does it cost, with room and board, collect? What do you think? $80,000 a year to go to Harvard? If you, that should be the message on Twitter yesterday.
It's the biggest scam ever. Of course it is. Yeah, you want to rail against that? I'm all for that.
Okay.
Well, you won't find bigger scammers than BU. My God.
Why should a school like Harvard, which has $38 billion in the bank, be bailed out of anything? Why do they get tax breaks, by the way? And they get all kinds of them. I mean, it is a great business. Big university is the best business right now. They're recession proof. Trust me, I've been to lots of colleges around here. My kids have gone to lots of colleges around here. Every one of them. You pull on the campus, every one of them, you just see cranes everywhere. They're building new dorms. They're building new science buildings and gyms, and they are flush with cash while the rest of the world is struggling to make it through these tough times, the COVID lockdowns. Here's what they do at college. Everything always works out for these places. They no longer have in-class learning, right? It's virtual learning. So they don't have to, their expenses are cut in a fraction of they normally are. Do you think they cut tuition? Do you think they cut room and board? Of course not.
Nope, they've raised it.
They make out, as they always do. These are, and I'll give them credit. They have devised this scam, and no one will ever call them out on it. All the politicians pander to them. People think that their kids that have to go to these schools if they're going to make anything of themselves. Nobody ever says, you know what, I shouldn't do that. It costs too much. They say, you know what, I'll just take out a loan, and at some point I'll renege on the loan, default on the loan, and taxpayers will pick up the check. That's what they're going to do. That's the top priority of your president, Joe Biden, who I'm going to start watching these press conferences. I don't know if you saw any of this one, Alex. It's hilarious watching these frauds, these sycophants in the media who worked hard to make the president uncomfortable for the last 4 years, and now they're back in their comfort zone. They got one of their own up there on at the podium, and they are just fawning over him. The contrast is comical, but they don't care. They're not even hiding anymore. It's like, we're so happy to hit our guy. After a weekend of violence where their supporters, Joe Biden voters, were smashing up, punching old ladies in the back of the head and firing fireworks at restaurants. Not a single question about Antifa and BLM and the violence that they caused in the city and in D.C. Not a single question. Whereas for 4 years, Trump has been asked to denounce these made up groups of white supremacists time and again, and just kept doing it over and over again, denouncing, disavowing, and it was never enough. Not once has Biden been asked to denounce Antifa and BLM. In fact, they put out a statement and they said, Joe Biden continues to condemn all acts of violence. This coward will not even go on record and condemn an anti-American anarchist organization that is looting and burning and causing violence in a number of our cities. And Biden doesn't have the guts to use their name, Antifa. And God knows he would never condemn BLM, which is another violent Marxist organization. It is too bad that we're going to have a president the next 4 years who doesn't have the guts to condemn anarchists. But those are his base.
He's condemned rioting and looting many times.
Yeah, by whom?
By the people who are rioting and looting.
They have a name, dude. Go ahead. You know it, don't you? Come on.
Rioters and looters.
Say their name. Say their name.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Antifa.
I don't know who they are. Again, the only thing I know about Antifa is 3 years ago, we thought they were like taking over Fenway Park or something with that banner against racism. And it turned out that was an anti-racist group. Remember that? That's the only thing I know about Antifa.
Did you watch the news over the weekend? Pay attention. Anything?
Yeah. I'm going to be honest. I find all of that tedious and boring. Do you know why? Because these are people, Jerry, with nothing to do. On both sides, the Million MAGA March losers, these Antifa losers, these are all people with no friends and nothing to do. They're bored.
No friends. There was like 500,000 people, supporters of Trump, happy warriors, singing the national anthem.
I don't think there were 500,000 of them, maybe 5,000.
And your people go in there and cause all the chaos. Your people are the violent ones, and your guy, and I'm looking at video of it again, old people just getting punched in the head. I mean, these are old savages.
What are old people doing down? Why are these old people down at this violent scene? What are they doing down there? Shouldn't they be isolating at home? We have a pandemic.
It wasn't violent till your guy showed up. You know what I find amazing, though? That would be your top priority. There's so much going on. There's so many issues, and we've seen, through the campaign, there's so much, contrast between Biden and Trump on so many things. And your first order of business is going to be forgiving debt for deadbeat college grads who don't have enough discipline and responsibility to pay their own debt. It just seems like a strange priority. But
you don't know anyone with student loan debt. I mean, these are people who went to regular colleges and they're trying their best to work jobs, make a living, and they have all this debt to pay.
Well, why did
they shouldn't have to? Because as we've established, Jerry, college is a scam. You shouldn't have to pay the prices that any of these charges any of these colleges charge.
Why don't you write that? That'd be a good column. College is a scam. And
I think it's been written.
Attention, young high school kids. College is a scam.
Well, it isn't, because still it is the best thing you can do to increase your earnings potential. I mean, you look at the graphs between Americans who go to college, don't go to college. It's third world country, first world country, basically. So no, despite how awful and scammy it is, it's still the best thing and most important thing you can ever do for yourself going forward. Well, it is. I mean, that's just the reality. It's a sad reality, but it's true. One thing I love about these colleges that I did want to get in, and I promised I'll let you get back to bashing, the grandmother beaters or whatever. All these colleges are all about anti-racial, anti-racism, social justice, woke racial justice. Well, they all say they have these budget crunches now. And guess who they all lay off when they have these budget crunches? The cafeteria workers, the dorm people, the cleaning people. Who fills those jobs? Do we think it's people of color?
It's
yes.
It's never the assistant deputy vice chairman of diversity. I once saw the numbers at UMass. The UMass system, I forget it now, 2,000 or like 5,000 people make over 200,000 a year. It is the biggest scam going, and not just in around the country. I mean, you name it, Texas, California, Pennsylvania, they all have these university systems, and they have these like-minded, fellow travelers making $200,000-$300,000 a year doing who knows what. Now the biggest scam is to be in the diversity department to make sure University of Michigan, I guess I should have this number, spends some insane like $8 million a year on the diversity department. Make sure there's enough diversity. I'm telling you, you want to go to find a flourishing field, go into the diversity field under President Biden. You can make a good living.
Why is it so hard though for like people with influence to take the conversation to the level that you guys are having it now, that it is a scam? Like who's the dude who said Trump is killing, the actor who yesterday tweeted out Trump is killing hundreds of thousands of people? That was his first tweet yesterday about Trump's COVID response. But then his next tweet was, it took me 10 years to pay off my student loan debt. I would love people to not have that burden on their life. Yeah, why can't he say, why was I paying absurd amount for tuition all those years? Nobody's out there saying
what's his name? The Indian American.
Yeah, the Harold Kumar guy. I don't know his name in real life.
Who said Trump's going to kill as many people as possible in the next 2 months. Trump, the guy who's started no wars, who's forced the creation of 2 new vaccines. Yeah, he's just going to kill lots of people. What a fool. And this idiot with the theater degree, probably from wherever, NYU, I don't even know, is strapped with debt. Oh, damn. Why won't the taxpayers bail me out? Here's the thing is we have to drill it into young people's minds that there's no reason they don't have to go to BU. They don't have to go to Wesleyan. There are other more affordable options. And what these, high school guidance counselors or college counselors are doing. They're saying, all you got to do is fill out this little form and the government will send you $50,000. And you know what? Maybe you pay it off. Maybe you don't. If we get a Democrat in office, maybe you see that guy out there roofing next door, painting the house next door. He'll pay it off for you. What a scam. What an absolute joke it is. And I'm glad Alex and I could agree on that, could find some common ground, agree. Big, what did you say? Big colleges are scammy. They're scammy. That's what they are. They're scammy. And the reason politicians don't speak out like we're speaking out here, Cullinane, is because they're part of the scam. They get money from these schools. Some of them go work and teach at these schools. They know it's a scam, but they benefit. They profit from this scam. So they're going to keep the scam going.
And right now, especially, the kids aren't getting shit. I mean, I think I just read a headline that Syracuse canceled their midterms because kids are stressed. There's literally nothing going on campuses.
You know what? We're going to hear about this in 5-10 years, that there has to be long-term effects where kids aren't going to school. They're not learning, especially special needs kids who are getting the worst of the brunt of this. And obviously, Democrats don't care. Democrat governors, liberal governors like ours, Charlie Baker, Cuomo, Whitmer, they don't care about special needs kids. Yes, as Mark Levin would say, that's right, I said it. They don't care about special needs children who are forced to do at-home learning and can't do it Parents are living through a nightmare. And some like Turtle Boy, who has to do his remote learning, is losing his mind. But there are others who are genuinely watching their children spiral downward because of these tyrants that don't allow the kids to go to school. And by the way, do you think you're getting a tax rebate? I mean, because you pay big taxes to send your kids to children to school. They're not going to school. You think you're giving your money back? No, because they're not laying off any of the hacks we were just talking about, any of the vice deputy assistant, the chairman of diversity. They're still making their $200,000. They don't miss a day of work. Anytime someone tells you that we have to lock down, ask you for, first question should be, how much are you sacrificing, sir? Chris Cuomo, how much are you giving up? Are you missing a day of work? Are you missing a payment into your 401k? I mean, are you giving up anything? Are you losing anything? Do you feel the pinch at all? And the answer is invariably with assholes like Chris Cuomo or Charlie Baker or Andrew Cuomo is of course not. They're loving it. They're more powerful than ever. They're richer than ever. Let's go over some of the latest because this stuff to me is just so maddening. And I think maybe Alex and I'll agree on this again, of these hypocrites that are saying, they're going to go door to door on Thanksgiving and make sure you don't have more than 10 people and make sure they don't spend more than 2 hours. Gavin Newsom, he's got the strictest Thanksgiving rules of all the governors, was at the most expensive restaurant in America the other day with 12 people. Now he's saying you can't have 10 people in your house or you're going to kill grandma. He was at French Laundry. That's the name of the place in Napa with 12 friends. It's $400 a plate to eat at French Laundry. I'm not sure why it's called French Laundry. Do you know?
That was like French lingerie or something. But
am I pronouncing it wrong?
No. I'm saying it sounds sexy, but I don't know. I have to read more about it.
So this hypocritical asshole, Gavin Newsom, goes there and then he says, sorry, I probably shouldn't have done that. And then he says, if you don't hunker down, if you don't quarantine for 2 weeks, if you don't limit your Thanksgiving to 10 people, then you are selfish and you are reckless. These people make my skin crawl. Cuomo, Andrew Cuomo, same thing, scolding people for not agreeing to essentially cancel Thanksgiving. Trump brought in this guy, Scott Atlas, to be the voice of reason against Fauci and Birx and the rest of the lockdown lunatics. Terrible. Why is he terrible?
Because he's just letting people die with no plan.
What are you talking about, letting people die? We already know lockdowns don't work. That's been proven. Lockdowns don't work. We already know we have a vaccine coming. We already know shutting down the government, shutting down the country is insane. The only people who want to shut down the country are these governors and these politicians that don't, again, feel any pinch and don't care.
It's insane to shut. Yeah, it's insane and cruel to shut down the country without any assistance coming. Your anger is misdirected. We need to lock down to starve off this virus again because it is more out of control than ever. But we can't lock down with no government assistance and just to let people die financially. So it's a shitty situation and quite cruel and dystopian and gross. It's enraging.
What makes you think you can? What did you say? Starve off the virus? Where's the evidence that you can starve off the virus?
New York City had a good spring and summer, had a good summer with the virus because they were harsh in the spring.
Have you ever looked at the numbers from Sweden?
Yeah. I mean, they've had higher deaths than most European countries.
They have not.
Yes, they have.
I'm looking at Sweden. Deaths per million, they're 21st in the world. They've had there's a country of 10 million. They have a total of 6,100 deaths in a country of 10 million. That's what, 1/5 of the state of New York. I mean, and they lock down nothing. They close nothing. They don't wear masks. They don't have remote learning. They just knew that there's only so much you can do. The virus is going to virus.
No, that's not true, though. See, that's wrong. Sweden did do things. They banned large gatherings and other things of that nature. They do have restrictions, but that's
all. They didn't ban Thanksgiving dinner.
Well, but I mean, see, here's the thing. Like, I think that it is cruel, again, for these mayors and governors to get on their high horse and talk about how we need to cancel Thanksgiving. Nobody can see their families. That's ridiculous. And I'd like to ask them if they're doing the same. The answer would be absolutely not.
Right.
But on the other hand, Jerry, you do have to admit this virus is real. It is out of control. Why would you want to have a 10-person Thanksgiving right now with your grandparents and put them at, like, why would you want to do that anyway? Is my question.
I feel exactly the opposite. I think grandparents, and I've read the stories, they're being devastated. They're being isolated. There are people, at that age where things are not as clear as they used to be. There are people in the early stages of dementia. And what happens is they get isolated and it just gets exacerbated. And that's it. Their life ends in the saddest, cruelest, most lonely way. And let's be honest, a guy like Charlie Baker doesn't give a damn. A guy like Andrew Cuomo, Gretchen Whitmer, Gavin Newsom, they don't care. They're enjoying their power. And they just say, hey, got to lock down. And no one ever says, why? I mean, why do we got to lock down? I'd rather, if I were, 80-year-old person in a nursing home, I would rather see my children or grandchildren and take my chances and maybe get sick and die than die alone and just spiral, in my own little world, deteriorate and die alone. The idea that that's protecting those people by leaving them alone and not allowing any visitors unless you wrap yourself in plastic or look through the window is madness.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, that's fair. And, I think that, again, this message is wrong. Like, why don't we say, okay, if you are planning on having a Thanksgiving dinner with your grandparents, you need to be careful for 10 days or 2 weeks. Like, maybe don't go and maybe you isolate for 2 weeks before you see your grandparents for Thanksgiving. You know what I'm saying? Like, that should be the message. Do you think
the people need to hear that from the governor? Do you think you don't give people enough credit to think they take responsibility on their own and say,
no, I don't think so.
My parents or grandparents, I'm going to be careful here. We're going to sit outside.
But how can it? Well, it can't hurt for the governor to say it too, right? I mean, that would be a more effective message than this draconian cancel Thanksgiving, wear your mask at all times if you're outside alone, because that's over the board, over the top, and people tune that out. Yeah, it'd be much more effective if they lived in the real world and gave real risk mitigation strategies.
I just read a story this morning that Manchester public schools are going to go to remote learning because 10% of their staff said in a survey that they're going to celebrate with family outside of New England for Thanksgiving. So they're going to remote learning until mid-January because technically everybody would have to quarantine for 2 weeks after that happens. So they're just going to do it. Yeah.
It's just so maddening. People can make their own decisions. You can, there's so many things that we can't afford. We can't afford lockdown. You can't afford to shut down businesses. You can't afford to shut down schools. I think even these arrogant bastards making these calls have to understand there are ancillary victims here. There are collateral damage. There are those special needs kids. There are people that own restaurants and gyms and businesses. They can't afford this again. Alex, we've shut down twice, locked down twice in the spring and in the summer. It didn't help. It didn't do anything. It didn't, what did you say? Starve the virus? It didn't starve the virus. You know what it did? It starved people who lost their jobs, who lost their businesses.
We had considerably less virus around here in the Northeast in the summer than we did in the spring, and certainly than we do now. But the question would be at what cost? And like Detroit, 1 in 4 public school students, I read yesterday, in Detroit still have not logged into their high school courses. 1 in 4. Who do you think those kids are? Are they from the wealthy suburbs? No, those are inner city kids of color. So this is, again, this is the most backward social policy you could ever have, this remote learning in these public schools. And it also is the most sexist policy ever, because who's staying home with the kids? Mom. So then who can't work? Mom. Women are being driven out of the workforce as well as a result of this.
All right. Reimer's on board. It's racist and sexist to lock down again. So you and I are with Scott Atlas. Scott Atlas said people should rise up against these draconian measures, rise up against these school closings and business closings. And by the way, it never makes any sense. Like, I was reading a story yesterday about the curfew in New York. It's the same in Boston, but obviously in New York, people go out later, eat later. And with the 9:30 or 10 o'clock curfew, The restaurants say they're jammed. Everyone's jammed in together. Obviously, you got to have certain rules, 6 feet apart or whatever, but everyone's trying to eat at essentially the same time. When you have a curfew, we have no curfew. There are people who come in at 10, people who come in at 11, people who come in at 12. So the solution for these idiot governors like Cuomo is let's have everyone go to the restaurant at the same time, go inside and breathe and spittle on each other. Oh, by the way, yesterday I saw the governor of, I think it was DeWine in Ohio, and he was given the rules, and he said there can be no singing. Oh, is it DeWine or Hogan? Saying this Thanksgiving, no singing, no choruses. And I'm going, singing? First of all, who sings at Thanksgiving? Secondly, who told you it was a good idea to make a rule, a law in these guys' minds against singing? Think of how insane that is. This is how our politicians think. They think they're so powerful that they could forbid their subjects from singing with, I guess, like with their kids doing like, the wheels on the bus go round and round or something. I mean, that's been outlawed. This is madness.
You know that great those great Thanksgiving choruses, though, Jerry. You know that.
Does the Reimer household sing on Thanksgiving?
We up before every
show
course.
tunes.
Yep. That's the Buck household.
The reason the virus decreased, Alex, is because people understood. They did their duty. They social.
Well, then what are they doing now? Why is it exploding everywhere? Then again, they stopped.
It's because we're testing. That's why. Because we're testing all the college kids.
No, because we have way more. So we have way more around than we used to. But here's the thing I will say, like these governors, so the ban on gatherings is so stupid because conceivably you can do a larger gathering at your home safely. If everyone is wearing a mask, if you're outside, as you mentioned. I love restaurants. There is no way to safely eat inside of a restaurant right now. It might be a risk you feel comfortable doing, and I think they should be open, and people should take that risk if they want to. But so that's hypocritical as well. You can't safely eat inside of a restaurant. You could safely have 12 people in your backyard, distanced, masked. So more hypocrisy.
I want to hear Scott Atlas, the voice of reason on the president's task force. And I can't wait for Biden's task force, by the way, when he takes over and you got Ezekiel Emanuel telling people to just die when they're 75. You get this other idiot Osterholm saying we need to lock down the whole world to make this virus go away. Oh, it's going to be and the 75-year-old guy, the guy who says we should die at 75 is working for a guy who's about to turn 78. Oh, it's going to be funny, but I guess it won't matter because you'll never get any tough questions from the fawning Washington press corps. But you'll get them from Chris Cuomo, the weightlifting correspondent at CNN, was not happy with Dr. Scott Atlas, who said that people should ignore these stupid draconian measures these governors are taking. Chris Cuomo had some choice words for Dr. Scott Atlas.
And this kind of isolation is one of the unspoken tragedies of the elderly who are now being told, don't see your family at Thanksgiving. For many people, this is their final Thanksgiving, believe it or not. What are we doing here?
What the hell are you doing here? Yeah, it could be their last Thanksgiving. If you expose them to people who aren't wearing masks, who aren't socially distancing, and haven't been doing so, and haven't gotten tested, because they somehow think they don't want to get in on the con of COVID. You want to hide on state news, you do it. But someday you're going to have to deal with real questions. And either you're going to come on a show or you're going to do it. But you know what? We may go back to old school. And maybe the questions will come find you. Maybe when you're living your life nice and easy, because you don't have the concerns that these same people that you're telling to rise up, that they have. Maybe the questions will come and find you because you have to answer for that kind of guidance, let alone as a doctor. Do no harm.
God. Why would anyone want to talk to him?
I'm sure Scott Atlas is scared of Chris Cuomo, that half a moron, who, by the way, is the biggest phony of them all, who pretended he quarantined at home with the virus. We got caught outside. He's been caught outside without a mask like 6 times. Just got his hair cut the other day. No mask. Even I have a mask when I get my hair cut, and I'm sure you do too, Reimer. But there are rules for you and me, and then there are rules for Cuomo's, and those two, him and his murderous brother, They are like the faces of hypocrisy. They're the reason people should rise up and ignore all these government decrees, because the people telling you what to do aren't going to do it themselves. It's just so frustrating.
I'll tell Chris Cuomo, I mean, why he has a very low opinion of all Americans if he thinks that every American who has a grandparent over the house for Thanksgiving will not be wearing masks, will be breathing on them, will be going to like ragers the night before. I mean, like you said, I think people hopefully are, more responsible than that.
See, I think of my parents who are gone, but if they were here, my mother was in a nursing home, she'd rather die than never see her grandkids again. I mean, the idea that I just want to be locked away safe here at the age of whatever, 80. I mean, and just don't ever come visit me. Don't come near me because of that spooky virus. People are like, no, I don't want to die like this. I don't want to live like this. And again, they're not humans to Baker and Cuomo and Whitmer. They're not humans. They're just, subjects, and they're going to tell you what to do. And again, when I hear them say things like, no singing, or, no, you can't do this. You can't stay for more than 2 hours. I think Newsom was the first to say that when you visit your relatives, you can only stay for like 2.5 hours is going to kill them, or 3 hours, or, to the end of the game. I want to see the end of the game. Oh no, you can't. The governor said you only have 2 hours. Don't they hear it coming out of their own mouth and say, this is insane. This is America. I can't tell people how many people in their own family can sit in their house. And by the way, what if they have a house like, Tom Brady, that's like 10,000 square feet? And then
I think many do.
There's Alex Reimer in his 400-foot square apartment.
No, I live in this is a 3-floor condo, baby. I'm living large here.
Yeah, you gotta follow Reimer on Instagram, because then you get all the pictures while he's looking for a new roommate. I know exactly what Reimer's doing. It's a nice place.
This is a nice place.
And then take you and then compare it to your friend who's struggling with student debt, who has a little tiny apartment.
There we go.
You have the same rules, so the same laws. You can have the same amount of people for the same time. What sense does that make? And they don't care. They just want to seem like they're devoted, dedicated to starving the virus, to quote Dr. Reimer.
Take care of your grandparents. They can be safe in the nursing homes and in the veteran nursing homes in Massachusetts. Keep them safe there.
All right. I want to ask you a quick question, because you're a big Kurt Schilling fan like me, and you're a big baseball Hall of Fame guy, big baseball guy.
I am. I like them both.
But first, I want to talk about Shea Concrete, and then we'll get to some baseball, some Hall of Fame talk, which people love at this time of year.
They do.
But this is for you homeowners and home builders. Did you know that my brother-in-law Greg and the folks at Shea Concrete have a huge selection of precast concrete steps? Of course you do. Whether you're building a new home or you need to replace an old stair in an old home, Shea has great values with designs for any home. They're available in concrete, or you can customize with beautiful stone, granite, or brick, and you don't do a damn thing. All you do is call Shea, and you pick out your favorite steps. You get online, you pick out your favorite new set of steps, set of stairs, and they do the rest. And when they're done, your house looks better, and it's worth more. This is the kind of project you can do now. Get it done before winter. A new staircase can dramatically upgrade the front entrance of your home. In most cases, they can remove the old stairs, which are pretty freaking heavy, and have you walking up your new front steps within hours. You can learn more about Shea's precast concrete steps at sheaconcrete.com, or just give them a call. Just stop in. There's 4 great locations around New England. Stop in and pick out your new precast concrete steps. All right, here's people who hate Schilling, like you, who were thrilled that that part of the lockdown was canceling the Hall of Fame last year. There was no Hall of Fame. So Schilling was deprived of his solo induction. I got news for you. There's new people on the list eligible. It doesn't matter. The only guy going in again this July is Kurt Schilling. He's going to be up there alone, unless the steroid guys break through. Unless Clemens and Bonds and Manny. By the way, Manny Ramirez is an absolute Hall of Famer. Why does he? I never understand why he doesn't get the same consideration as Bonds and Clemens.
Because he failed 2 drug tests.
At least two.
Yeah, at least 2, exactly. Bonds and Clemens lucked out. They retired before drug testing was in place. Well, Bonds never failed to test. McGuire retired before.
But I mean, there's this weird, compunction of these baseball writers to try to figure out where they started cheating, like what year, and say, right, Bonds was really good before he started juicing.
Right.
So
Well, right. The thing with Bonds is like the 99 is the line of demarcation. That's the story, right? The Bonds was jealous about the attention McGuire and Sosa received in 98.
The whole book about it.
Right.
But why do you owe it? And I know I've asked this 1,000 times. Why do you owe them that consideration? Screw them. I mean, if they cheated and they did, and you're for the steroid guys or you're against it. Now, I know more and more young guys are okay with the steroid guys, but you can't logically say, I'm going to vote for Clemens and Bonds, but not for Sammy Sosa, a guy with 600 home runs who hit 60, I believe, 3 times. I'm not going to vote for Manny, or McGuire, but I am going to vote for Clemens. Either do one or do the other. It's like I would vote for none of them. They don't deserve that honor. I mean, they get a lot. They get to keep all the money they made and all the records they set, I guess, but they don't get to be honored, for eternity by the Hall of Fame. No big deal. I just wouldn't vote for them. Schilling gets 70% last year. You need 75. And if they don't vote for him, are people thinking nobody gets in? Like do they even have a ceremony if nobody gets in? They must, right?
Well, no, they'll have the great J.G. Spinks Award winner. We'll maybe get in alone.
Yeah, is there anybody? Have they given it to a guy who's molested his own grandchildren lately, or was that a one-time thing with Bill Conley?
That was a one-time thing. But maybe they'll have a special induction this year. Who knows?
I'm looking at the numbers. Clemens got 61%. Bonds got 60.7%.
Right. I love the people who vote for Clemens and not Bonds.
Why do you think that is, Reimer? Let me guess.
I have some theories.
But other guys who are top returning vote getters: Omar Vizquel, 52, Scott Rowland, 35, Billy Wagner, 31. So they have, I think Manny was 28, even though he was a lock Hall of Famer if he didn't, if he didn't flunk so many drug tests. But I think unless Clemens or Bonds both jump up in there, Schilling's going to have the stage to himself. Wouldn't it be amazing if Schilling was up there with the steroid guys, because he was the anti-steroid guy until he was before Congress. But they'll vote. They'll find out in January, and it'll be inducted in July. And everybody, all the baseball writers, all the liberal pukes at ESPN are going to hate this, which is why I'm going to love it. Schilling's going to get up and he's going to say some notable things. Maybe he'll put a shout out to Donald J. Trump. By the way,
maybe he'll wear his QAnon shirt.
Oh, geez, stop with the Q. I want to make it through a whole show without QAnon. All right. I'm on record. All right, already, Alex. I'm on record. I don't want Donald Trump 2024. I don't. I've enjoyed the Trump era. It was great for the country. I love the disruption. I love the exposing of the deep state and the swamp. I loved it. I wish he won this time, got reelected.
Good. So when did you admit that he lost? When did this happen?
I didn't. I don't. I mean, I've admitted. Biden. I've admitted 2 things. It's quite clear to me, quite obvious. Biden cheated, and Biden won. So I'm willing to admit that he will give him 4 years as an illegitimate president. Obviously.
Oh, good. Okay.
Yes. Obviously, this victory was tainted. We're learning more and more about all the voter fraud that took place, and just believe your own eyes. Trump had this huge lead. There was massive ballot dump for
They counted the mail-in ballots after the people who voted on election day.
And plus these voting machines. I mean, obviously they're flipping votes from Trump to Biden.
Right? It's crazy.
He's president. He's just not legitimate. Anyway.
Okay, good.
All these Trumpkins, these real devoted MAGA people, are going to want him to run again. I can't, in good conscience, say that I think Biden's too old at 78. But Trump's going to be 78, and I want him to run. I don't want a 78-year-old guy. I want the next guy. And I heard somebody say this. Who said this? That the next guy is going to be like Trump, but smarter and maybe, more savvy, and will get more done because, as you know, Trump gets caught up in, who gets the credit and who's writing what and saying what about him. But if you have a guy who has a similar agenda to Trump, whether it's, I don't know, a politician like Josh Hawley or a celebrity like Tucker Carlson, and they're smarter than him, than Trump, and they're just more determined to get things done and less distracted by things that distracted Trump, that's your worst nightmare. Wouldn't you agree as a moonbat?
Well, how could you find someone smarter than Trump? He's the smartest person who ever lived. So beautiful, so amazing.
You know how you could get his son, Don Jr., to run?
Oh, God. You don't really want Donald Trump Jr. to run, do you?
No, I want there's plenty of people I'd be happy with, at least now. Ron DeSantis, Kristi Noem, Tom Cotton. I love the idea of Josh Hawley because he is the leading voice against the big tech bullies, and that's very, very important now. The big tech bullies won this election. They're going to be more powerful than ever. They're going to take away more of my followers than ever. They're going to censor people like me.
Or Jerry.
But we're coming for you in 4 years, so it'll be fun. And just think of if Trump is supportive of that guy and he encourages his people. Now, it's a big if. Maybe he'll be jealous and he won't want to hold rallies in support of Josh Hawley. But if he does, that's a big factor. I mean, those were important. Those rallies, they helped rally the base. And if he gets those going again in support of a guy like, Josh Hawley or Ron DeSantis, it'll be big. It'll be It'll be fun too. It'll be wild.
Yeah, I just don't think that. I mean, the big thing about Trump this year is he actually, it sounds crazy to say, but he had the most diverse coalition of any Republican in modern times. He got 16% of the black vote. The Latino vote was at 35% for him. I mean, we know these stories. I don't think that somebody like Josh Hawley, just a guess, is able to replicate that kind of coalition, in which case the Republican would be in trouble. Trump may be the best bet in 2024, actually, Jerry. Yep.
Again, it was fun while it lasted, but the idea of
Are you going to go to his rallies, his post-election rallies? Because that's his plan. I mean, that's all it's going to be.
I would have gone, if I were in D.C., I would have gone during the day. But once the Antifa animals come out at night, I want no part of it. Not because I wouldn't want to beat up. I mean, I think I've seen a lot of the mugshots. Even at my advanced age, I think I could take about 5 of them at once. They're all these skinny, scummy, drugged out losers. But they got nothing to lose, so they'll club you over the head with a bat and not think twice. Plus, they don't ever face any consequences because the ultra-liberal mayors of these cities, including D.C. with Mayor Bowser, don't hold them accountable. They don't even want them arrested because they're on their side. So as long as they're Biden supporters, they can destroy restaurants and beat up old ladies.
You're looking to fight. You're looking for some Antifa guys just to part. Yeah, okay. I
mean, if you just squared off and fought, I like the MAGA people's chances. The truckers, the Proud Boys against
the poor
Antifa.
boys.
The poor boys. I like our chances. But
Cheryl in the comment section on Facebook Live says Candace Owens 2024 going to run on that
good.
Men Shouldn't Wear Dresses platform that she's into.
I think that's a good point. We don't have to get into that today. We can do it next time about the wussification of the American male, and that's her latest tirade. But how about this ticket? Tucker Carlson, Candace Owen. Owen. I looked it up. She's just going to be old enough. I think she's going to be 35. And that would be so wild. They're so good on their feet. They're so articulate. They're such good debaters. They would imagine Tucker Carlson debating like an 82-year-old Joe Biden.
Yeah, I don't think Biden's going to run again. Hopefully not. I hope not.
He's not even going to last a year, Alex. We're looking at President Kamala. And
there you go.
I would love to see Candace Owen debate Kamala, too. She would eat. I mean, Mike Pence chewed her up and spit her out. It would not be pretty for your girl. But anyway, Reimer, I will let you go. You look like you're ready to go back to bed. Are you?
I'm not going back to bed. No, I'm not tired. No, I'm so thinking about that fly that was on Mike Pence's forehead and wondering if it's gone.
Are you working on some big story? Because, I always read your Substack.
Thank you. Yes, the Substack. I may have a few COVID-related Substacks this week about Thanksgiving and whatnot.
Find a family with a special needs kid who's just living through hell and write about them and say, attention, Charlie Baker, attention, Gretchen Whitmer and Andrew Cuomo. This is the kind of human carnage we're talking about. This is a real victim of your insane lockdowns. All right, do that for me.
I'm on it, Jerry.
All right, thanks. That is Alex Reimer from everywhere with his Alex Reimer Substack. You can follow him on Twitter and keep up to date on all the things he's working on. But all right, thanks to DCU and Shea Concrete, and especially to Allied Paving, the greatest paving company in America. And thanks to everybody for listening and subscribing and watching on Facebook Live. I get a lot of comments every time Alex is here.
Thank you. I know. And I love them. I love them.
All right. Anything else, Cullinane? What did I miss?
Shout out to the state of Massachusetts, who was probably the most normal in the Pornhub search. Did you see this?
No.
Pornhub search.
What do we have?
So Massachusetts searched college on Pornhub the most recently, and the other states were into some weird shit, man.
What's the weirdest?
Let's see. Navajo is from Arizona, obviously. Foot Job, New York. POV, Minnesota. Foot Job, yes, that's probably
that's Hunter Biden. That's a Hunter Biden search.
Louisiana searches Popeyes, so they're consistent there in Louisiana.
Popeyes porn, hot.
Florida searches Trump on Pornhub, so they're into the cool Trump stuff on there. Yeah. So that's nice.
That's Jerry.
Wow, I think we're not through with Hunter Biden. No, he's gonna be trouble for the Biden administration because he can't help himself. We're gonna be seeing more videos once they get through the election, and once we find out what's really on that laptop. It's going to be wild, but we need some youth and some virility in that administration. I think we're going to get it from Hunter. But all right, I don't even know what the hell you're talking about. Popeyes, Trump on Pornhub.
Top searches on Pornhub. That's a huge study out there, Jerry.
Trump and Popeyes porn.
Sandwich place.
Yes,
it's chicken place. Yeah.
Yes, and
chicken place on.
Kansas searches chubby the most on Pornhub, so they're into the chubby talk.
And the chubsters.
Yes. Yeah.
Wow. All right. That's it for that, I guess. All right. I'm Jerry Callahan. This is the Callahan Podcast, and we will talk to you again tomorrow.